now it's like, who cares? Who cares how old you are or like what other people think? We know that we're doing something that we love and we're enjoying it. So yeah, I don't know.
Hey dancers, welcome to the show. I'm Julie and I'm your host today on this episode of Broche Banter. I both own and teach at Broche Ballet, a virtual ballet school just for adults. Join us as we explore all things adult ballet. Today on the show, I chat with Lauren, who started ballet for the first time less than a year ago. She danced in a small local studio with little kids until she found us online during quarantine. We talk about turnout, getting discouraged, and being obsessed with ballet. Enjoy! If you're enjoying these stories of the wonderful adult dancers in our community, please help us keep the podcast going by nominating a friend to be on the show. Send us an email at hello@brocheballet.com to let us know who we should invite on the show next. Before we get to the show, let's take our Broche Bite. On this segment, we'll talk about bite-sized ballet tidbits to give you something to chew on while you listen. For today's Broche Bite, let's name some of the muscles involved with turnout. Turnout can seem mystical, but it's really just a collection of muscles. There are so many muscles responsible for keeping your femur bone attached to your pelvis. Some lift your femur bone forward or back, and some rotate it inwardly or outwardly. For turnout, we use the piriformis, the gemellus, the obturator, the quadratus femoris, the glute muscles, especially the glute medius, although the glute max and min do help too, the psoas, and the sartorius. Hope you enjoyed that bite of information. Now, onto the conversation with Lauren.
Well, welcome to the show, Lauren. I'm so excited to have you on today to talk about your story with ballet.
All right, sounds good.
So you are dancing in our online studio. You've been dancing with us since early quarantine, I would say, since maybe March or April. I feel like you were one of our first early quarantine new dancers.
I think I found you like on YouTube, and so I was doing it a little, but I think it was like May I started, but yeah, around that time, yeah.
And it's now August, so that's just a few months. So so you live in a little bit more rural area, right? You live in Montrose, Colorado, right? So it's a little bit farther out in the mountains. Yes. So what is around there? Had you been dancing there? Had you been dancing only in your home? What was your ballet life like so far?
I am by nature a pretty shy person, so I kind of stumbled upon Pilates, and that led me to ballet. And I was like, that's so cool. Like, I just loved the athleticism and the detail in it, and how it combined it with artistry as well. And so I was like, how do I get into this? And so I started making phone calls just to a few. There were some tiny studios here in Montrose, but they rejected me.
Oh.
There was two that I got rejected from, and then one that did allow me to join because their limit was 18. If 18 or younger for ballet, and I was like, well, I just wanted to, see what it was like, and
right.
And so yeah, one little school did let me in, and they were super cool. So that was about the end of 2019. Like October, November 2019, that I started taking class at this little studio ballet. It was a full dance studio for children, basically.
And so that's about 6 months. So I met you about 6 to 8 months maybe into your ballet life.
Yeah.
Cool. And so I assume they had to shut down around the time that we did, right? Pretty much everyone did. And I know the mountains were hit pretty hard in Colorado.
Yes, for some reason, our community, for how small it is, I feel like, yeah, it kind of did get hit hard. Yeah.
Yeah, I heard something to do with like lots of travelers who go to the mountains and kind of mixing and mingling lots of bubbles.
Yes.
So you started ballet maybe now almost a year ago, maybe about 10 months ago. So you mentioned that you were a shy person in the very beginning and that you found Pilates sort of because of that. Was that related to that, or is it like how does that fit into your journey?
Well, I guess I've always been kind of an anxious person, and so I would use, I was into running for a while, then I
Hmm.
was into like really hard like hit workouts
Yep.
just to get my blood pumping, and it helped my anxiety. And so I kind of started, I wasn't really comfortable with the gym situation. And so I just would work out at home or
Hmm.
go running, go for a hike with my husband, stuff like that. Um, but I wasn't getting like I wasn't getting the mental fulfillment that I felt like I wanted. So I kind of just, my mother-in-law actually talked to me a little bit about ballet because she, from an early age, had done ballet, gone on Pointe, and just told me about how much she loved it. And she was like, if you want to work out, that is the most intense workout you will ever get. And I was like, ooh, that sounds interesting.
Hmm.
So that was kind of, so I had already started Pilates because I
Hmm.
was like, whoa, this is crazy workout, even though it doesn't feel like, it doesn't necessarily, you wouldn't think it would be.
Right.
Um, and then I was like, well, that's awesome, because then I could get like the artistry of, expressing yourself with music. I love art, very passionate about theater and, all that. So I think it kind of just fit that niche for me.
Did you do, you mentioned passion for art and music. Did you do any kind of art and music as a younger person or even now as an adult?
Very much, yes. I love to draw, and I do some, it's called stipple work, where it's basically you use, it's just pen and ink. And so you create with dots,
Oh,
basically. And yeah, so so I've always really loved to, yeah, I've loved art all of my life.
wow, that's amazing. So you create, it's like basically pixel art kind of, but like manually with dots on paper.
Yeah, kind of like that. Yeah, yeah. So I'll do that, or a lot of yeah, I've done a little bit of painting, but mostly I do black and whites.
Wow. And do you ever mix them? Do you ever draw ballet?
I that is one of my new projects, is
Oh,
I do
fun.
want to, yeah,
That's
I
so
want to.
fun.
I haven't had time yet. Ballet's kind of been all absorbing,
Totally.
it's, yeah, which I
Oh,
enjoy.
ballet is very all encompassing. There's never enough time to do all the ballet we want to do.
Mhm.
How much do you dance right now?
So I do it every day. So I try to join your live classes as much as possible, but then, but I love the technique library, because if I've missed a class, I can just jump on and be like, hey, okay, I have this much time, so I'm gonna, do a conditioning, or I'm gonna do this bar class,
Hmm.
and I have a couple of my favorites that I'll repeat. So I do probably an hour a day.
That's a lot of dancing.
I'm kind of obsessed.
Ballet will get you if you're not careful. It'll grab you and suck you
Yeah,
in.
I'm sure I'm sure you kind of like it too.
Oh, I'm obsessed. I mean, I'm seeing all around ballet items. I know, I'm obsessed. I got hooked from the first class I had. I had a very similar situation with you where the only thing that would really quiet my mind down was moving my body, but it was always hard to find something that I liked to move my body. Sports are a disaster. I'm terrible at hand eye coordination. Like you throw something at me and it always hits me in the face, no matter what it is or how big it is or how slowly it was thrown at me. So I needed something individual. Um, for that, team sports are not my bag. So dance kind of allowed my brain to quiet down because it requires so much thought. As you're mentioning, the mental
Yes.
aspect of it is huge.
And that was exactly, I think, I don't know how you are, but I feel like in a lot of ways I'm very much a perfectionist.
Totally.
Um, okay, and so maybe that's the ballet personality. I'm not sure, what was kind of interesting is like I was like, wow, like I can just be completely absorbed in this for an hour or however much time I have, and it just flies by. Like, my husband will be like, "You were in there for like 2 hours." I'm like, "I was." Like he's super supportive. He's like stoked that I'm like so interested in it. But it was just like yeah, I mean, it really has been such uh like it's become a big part of my life.
So it's interesting. chatting with you especially as we're continuing to be in this lockdown situation for the foreseeable future in terms of being safer at home and kind of writing this whole thing out. I'm curious to get your thoughts on the experience of home dancing, because so many people have a different experience with it, where some people really, really miss the studio aspect. They miss sleeping around, they miss their friends. And then some people who maybe are more like you and me are really happy in our own world, in our own home, and we can get that escape in our own room. Do you find what's missing in the home setting from your experience in the studio, or vice versa even?
I guess the only one thing that I would say I kind of did enjoy, and I think you're slowly bringing it in, is like actually learning dances together, like the Four Little Swans, and and so I was so stoked that you did that, because I was like, this is something that we can all learn together. Maybe we're not like actually physically together, but we can each take our time and do it. And so yeah, I think that's really cool. And unfortunately, my schedule hasn't lended itself to be able to participate in the live classes, but after I've watched them. And so that was one thing that with the little girls that I was dancing with, it was really cool, because we were learning the dance for their recital. I wasn't actually going to perform in it, because that'd be kind of, well, anyway, that'd be kind of humorous, because they're so cute though. They were like 12, 14, like, and I already been in ballet for like 3 years, not going on Pointe yet or anything, but like, so they were so cute, because we would all encourage each other. We would be like, our teacher had choreographed a dance to Up, that the Disney or no Pixar movie.
Yep.
For that one song, that song, and it was so cute, and it was really technical. Like I thought, I mean, all of us kind of struggled with it, and so but it was like teamwork, and so I guess I like that. Like, it wasn't a competitive, which it might be like for like if you're working towards professional, but for me it was just like, all of the girls were like, I'm having a problem with this, or I'm having, so we would kind of like, when someone did it well, we'd be like, yeah, that's awesome. So that's kind of maybe one thing. But really, like, I'm so impressed with how much you can pick up, like, that if I'm not, if I'm not raising my arm enough, like my elbow dips down, you're able to see that, or like, if I'm not turned down on one of, like, the fact that you're able to give me those tips is invaluable during class. Like, awesome.
Yeah, the shared experience, I think, is a big piece that's fun about dance and about art in general. I think one of my favorite things about dance and music is that you can go to any country and watch a dance show and you can experience it, right? So you see a video of someone dancing and then the caption's in another language and you have no idea what it's about, the caption, right? But you still experienced you still experienced what they were saying to you, right? They are communicating to you in their in our language, our communal language of dance.
Exactly.
Which is very fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think to your second point on like what you can see over video, I always liken it to like if you're like I've been on Instagram for a long time, I don't know, 2-3 years, like sharing videos of me dancing, right? And it's a tiny video. Instagram's small. You can't zoom in, right? The videos are really small. But yet you still get people commenting like, this was technically wrong. This over here needs to be fixed. Like that tiny thing needs to be fixed. And it's a tiny video. I mean, video is still looking at you. I mean, you can't walk around the dancer, right? But you can see what they're showing you. You can see what they're showing you and correct what you're able, what you're looking at. So,
and that's so, yeah, like, I mean, for adults like me and that are in a small community where there isn't necessarily maybe an adult specific ballet course, or a ballet program, it's so nice that I can have this option and I can dance as much as I want. It's awesome.
All day, every day, in fact.
Yes. and just the fact that, like I know you mentioned before, And when your videos, just that adults, we do learn differently. Like we need to know the why. Whereas for children, like even in that small studio, I really feel like they tried to accommodate me, and I enjoyed it. I did. But the children learn differently. Like if I were to stop and ask questions, like I'm able to with you, they'd be bored. So I can respect that.
It's different. The kids who I've taught are so different from the adults. Like they have an incredible ability to mimic, and they just mimic the heck out of whatever you're doing. They pick up on tiny details like how you're holding your chin or whatever, whereas adults don't pick up on that in the same way. Like we want to know specifically why and when and how and what muscles are being used to do it, and the kids will just do it. Later in life, it's always interesting to come back when they do come back to ballet, and I tell them about the why, and they're like, oh, I didn't know that's how that worked. Or like they're doing it beautifully. They have beautiful technique, but they don't actually know why they're doing it like that because they never got, oftentimes once you become a professional, you do go through this yourself where you learn how to do it. Or if anyone comes back from injury, they go through this process. But if you quit at 15 or 16, you didn't like get there in your training where you got into your adult mind with ballet.
Got it. No, it is. And it is fascinating because it's like they're these tiny muscles. Like, I don't know how long. It took me months to figure out how to engage my turnout muscles. Like, seriously, because I was like, what? Squeeze your butt?
And how will that rotate your legs exactly?
But I remember you and Jessica were like, just keep squeezing.
So how'd you figure it out? Tell me, what visual works for you when you're like engage your turnout muscles? What does it feel like to you? See if you can describe it.
Oh God, you know what? It comes more from like the underneath part of your bottom. Like it seems like, and then actually what really helps me is the muscle on the side, the inside of my knee.
Yep.
And like knowing like if that is engaged, then I'm like, I got it. Okay. Now I know that I'm doing the full turnout, what I can do right now. So that's kind of the feeling that I look for. And then, if I have a mirror, then I can see, where my muscles are moving, like rotating, but yeah, it's super interesting. It's such a fascinating art.
It is. I mean, that muscle on the side of the knee comes from the inside of the knee up across your thigh and connects up to your hip. So it's like pulling your knee and your hip and your like quad open. So it goes like, if you can picture, if you trace from the inside of your knee up your inner thigh across the top of your quad to the top of your hip. So it is very much a cross rotational muscle, right?
Interesting. I don't think I didn't quite understand the connection. All I knew is like, when I felt that, like, okay, you're good. Like, yep. So it connects all the way to like, is it the outside of your hip or where?
It's like your hip. It's like, I think it's like your hip pointer. So like, your pelvis and then the little pokey part that sticks out in the front. So it's like across. So like your turnout muscles both push from the back and pull from the inside. It's like the whole leg is like pushing and pulling. So the inner thighs pull forward, the back of the leg pulls behind. The underbutt, I call it the butt underwire. Yeah. That's my
yes, the underbutt. Yeah, it's true.
The underbutt is like the bottom of the turnout muscles, and then you have the muscle that goes from your knee up and across, which is what we were talking about, pulling your leg straight while you're turning it.
Yes, it's so yeah. Like honestly, I mean, it took a while. Like once in a while, when I was with the kids. I could like once in a great while feel that, but really it wasn't until I started taking classes with you that I was like, oh, I got it. Okay. Like I had seen some certain exercises on the YouTube channel before I joined your class. And I was like, oh, okay. So it helped me to kind of get it more. Mm-hmm. And I think it was one of Christina's tutorials too that kind of helped as well. Yep. And then I was like, oh, I get it. So
rotate the leg. Got it.
Yeah, like, and like you're saying, children learn differently, teenagers learn differently, and so like, the teacher was awesome, but it was just like, yeah, it wasn't exactly what I needed. So yes, I'm glad that I found you.
I think we also like the realness of it, right? So like I think a lot of times when you're in a in a kid environment, you think everyone else is not struggling at it because no one's talking about the fact that it's hard or painful, or like you're in your Pointe shoes, which I know you're not on Pointe yet, but if you're in your Pointe shoes, no one else seems to be struggling, and you're like, I'm over here really suffering and no one else is suffering, or like
Yeah.
looks like they are, or is talking about the fact that they're suffering, and so you think you're doing it wrong. Like I think you asked one time in class about turnout, thinking that maybe it was going to get easier at some point, and like expecting it to get easier, because sometimes we forget to talk about how hard it is, and it's always hard.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's exactly what that was. I was like, yeah, I was surprised because like you said, when I see like performances or I see like, even these children, it's like, it seems like it's no big deal. Like, like, oh no, my butt cheeks don't hurt. Like, oh no, I'm not like, my legs don't hurt after this. Like, no big deal.
Right. I think it's if we don't talk about how much it hurts, I think it can make us feel like we are doing it wrong, or we're not cut out for it, or we're not getting it,
Yeah.
or something, if we don't talk about the fact that it's actually really hard. Whereas like
Yeah.
this is like the only art form or like sport where you don't talk about how hard it is. Like where if I'm in a crazy, like you mentioned doing HIIT workouts, if you're in a HIIT workout, it is obvious that everyone is struggling. It is
Yes.
expected that you will be suffering. The teacher comes in telling you you're going to suffer, right? And
Hmm.
then you're not like surprised when you're suffering by the end of it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. So yeah, when like, like as you're giving reminders during your live classes, like, are you engaging this? Are you pulling up your knees? Are you, how is your back? Are you, and those are things that it's like, I finally realized those, I'm always going to have to think about those things. And that's a part of what I love so much is like, there's always something to work on. Even professionals need to go back to the bar. That's always their beginning. And I think that that's so fascinating.
You've learned so much in such a short period of time about the philosophy of ballet and like what we're doing at the bar. Do you study? Do you read? How did you learn so much about like what the point of the whole thing is? I think it took me forever to get where you are in terms of understanding of like what we're doing, what we're trying to do. What happened?
Uh, it's kind of funny. I just started to, I think I investigated on YouTube. Like I
Mm-hmm.
watched a whole bunch of tutorials and read some, I looked at a lot of what you had to offer on your YouTube channel before I joined. And then, yeah, I think I just did a lot of research and
Yeah.
watched a lot of, yeah, because I
Yeah.
was just so fascinated. I didn't understand. I mean, when I started, I really was like, I told a few of my friends, I was like, oh yeah, I was like, I'm kind of interested in ballet, and they're like, but you're old.
Thanks, friends.
Like a handful of people. I was like, I was like, but I don't want to do it like professionally. I was like, I think it's fascinating and it's beautiful. And they're like, what are you gonna like wear a tutu? You know
Oh,
how I know. I was like, well, actually, I was thinking about it.
that's right. That's right.
So yeah, it's like I kind of just yeah, I think it was just doing research and yeah, I think I'm probably kind of very obsessed with it. So yeah, I'm always watching stuff and reading. Yeah.
Do you ever get discouraged?
Yes. Sometimes I do. Yes. Yeah, definitely. Like especially uh um with certain um like with my balance. I really struggle with my balance a lot. And so I'm like, my goodness, how long like am I gonna be able like I can't uh like yeah, like there's certain things that I just feel like, why is this side not as good as this side? Or, like, and so I'll get frustrated and I'll be like, I'm never going to look that good or, and not even necessarily that I have like a distinctive goal, but it's like, I do want to be able to use it to like express myself or, just for myself, not for anybody else. So yeah, I do get discouraged.
Yeah, I think it's a part of it. I think it's a part of it. Do you get that same discouragement in the other art forms or exercise that you do, or is that exclusive to ballet?
Oh, I get discouraged in my other, yeah, like sometimes with like if um a picture I'm working on, I'm never completely satisfied with my work. So that's probably a deficiency on my part, that I can't just be happy. Like I'm always going back and, and that's something I've done for decades is this type of, art. So, um, I know I won't ever be perfect at it. And same with ballet. And I know that that's why it appeals to me. There's always something to work on. But yeah, I do kind of get like, uh, oh man, like if only I would have started this younger, like maybe I could have, I don't know if you've had those feelings.
Oh, totally.
Yeah,
Totally.
yeah.
What do you do with those feelings? How do they manifest? Do they end up with taking a break? Do you push through them? Do you have like a go-to pick me up song? What do you do when these feelings come?
That's a good question. I honestly think what is the most encouraging is being in your live classes. Like, honestly, because no, it's true because I think, just seeing how many participants there are, like, and sometimes like if I get a sec, like before the class starts, I'll just kind of like see, like look and see everybody. And I think that that's really encouraging. And then the fact that you're so supportive and, it kind of just feels like, okay, we're kind of all in the same boat, it's like, and we struggle with similar things. So yeah, I definitely think if I'm feeling discouraged, I'm like, I think I might need to take more live classes this week if I can, or, like, so usually that, yeah, like I think last week I was only able to take like maybe one, and I usually try to do, my goal is to do as many as I can. And so like, I would like to do more like 3 or 4, but
Mm,
just depends, life gets in the way.
I know that whole thing.
Yeah, life.
I
The
know.
whole job.
No, the whole work thing.
Yeah.
I know, right? Yeah, I think it is important to have someone or something that will help you feel inspired and like that you're not alone in it, right? I think that maybe is a point that you were touching on a little bit in both. Maybe that's kind of like what's helping you feel that way with the live classes, that you're not alone in terms of peers, right? You have peers
Yeah.
who are in the boat with you, but then you also have a supportive person telling you like, hey, I'm on the other
Yes.
side of it and it's going to be fine.
Yes.
You're going to get to the other side of it. But then there's also people on that side with you, so maybe just like not feeling alone from both of those aspects is
Yeah.
important.
Well, and what I do really appreciate in your classes is the fact that like you'll tell me, oh, okay, make sure that you're presenting the heel, make sure that, just whatever detail that you see. And then the next time you actually remember and you mention to me, hey, you did better on that. I can see your turnouts better on that leg, that we were working on that last time. And so that makes me feel like, okay, like I'm that, yeah, like in this, even though it might be small, to me, it's like, it's huge. Like,
Yeah,
I'm making advancement, I'm progressing slowly but surely.
it makes all the difference. I think that kind of language, as I've learned over the years, like, when you talk about the idea of the growth mindset versus the fixed mindset, so that's like just a big idea of whether or not you think you can get better or if you think you're already as good as you could ever get. And I always try to encourage dancers to have the growth mindset. I mean, I try to encourage myself too. I still don't have it everywhere all the time. I still listen to that voice and I'm like, what are you saying in there? Quiet
I
down up
know.
there. So I still hear that voice in myself, but I try to encourage people to say, like, I am not the one doing the work that you are doing, right? I have given you this advice, but you took it, ran with it, and turned your leg out. That was you. That's your success. That's your doing. That's me, like, giving you a tip that you took and applied to your body. Like, I can't, it's not me doing it for you. And I always want people
Mm.
to feel empowered that they're the ones doing, you're the one making the progress, you're the one doing the work, you're the one who can do whatever you put your mind to. And like getting that confidence is really, really important to me, that we all develop in our life.
I totally agree. And I think that ballet helps a lot with that. Like you were talking about when you kind of get discouraged and um, I always think of one of my good friends. She would always tell me because she knew I was a perfectionist. She'd be like, progress, not perfection.
That's right.
And I was just like, oh, you're right. Yeah. So it is. And with ballet, it's constant, like, and I think that's what's kind of encouraging too, is the fact that you even see, like, if you look at these gorgeous dancers like Natalie Osipova, or like, they're just like so, but she still has to do the bar. She still has to go to bar class. She still, so it's kind of like everybody recognizes that it's a very, very athletic and very difficult art. And I think that's cool.
It is. It's really super cool. And when you start getting things, I think for many of us coming to it as adults, it is a way to build confidence and self motivation and discipline and like you said, life gets in the way, but we learn how to prioritize things to make time for the things that we care about, and that this helps show us that we have that ability to make the time for the stuff that we care about and to make ourselves be important, and learning all of those lessons just through dancing.
Well, yeah. You think of I was thinking of some of your students that are, maybe even started later than me, like, and my age too. Like, I am in the best shape of my life because of starting. No, seriously, like, I mean, like, so it's so cool because it's something that you completely enjoy, and then you see like older people too, like how it's benefiting them physically and I'm sure mentally as well, and gaining that confidence. We never had the confidence. Like when I was a child, I never had the confidence to dance, or even, my mom would even put me in dance class and I'd be like, hell no, I'm not doing that. Like,
totally.
So yeah, it's like now it's like, who cares? Who cares how old you are, or like if, what other people think, but it's like, we know that we're doing something that we love, and, like, and we're enjoying it. So yeah, I don't know.
That's what matters.
Yeah. So it's really, yeah. So anyway, it's very inspiring to see all of your students, and and you, like, all the effort you put into this is, I have to say, I so appreciate it.
Well, as you know, I'm also obsessed with ballet. So the fact that there's other people out there just as obsessed as me makes me really happy, because we get to share it together. We get to share and there's other people who want to hear all the nerdy conversations about anatomy and how exactly it works. And you all want to have the conversation with me. And that's really, really cool that there's people who show up every day, day after day, inspire me to work harder. I see people coming 4 or 5 days a week, like, you're dancing every day. I'm like, man, I got to get dancing more myself. It's inspiring, I think, each other to keep going. And that's what always, like, has kept me going through the studio. It's always a lot of work, but it's always for the reason of sharing something super cool with super cool people.
No, we really, like, just the few dancers that I've seen regularly and that I've gotten to chat a little bit with, I'm just like, wow, these are like really high quality people. Like, yeah. And we all have a common ground, even though we come from so many different cultures and backgrounds. Like, very cool.
Very cool. Very, very cool. Well, on that note, Lauren, thank you so much for joining me today. This was such a fun conversation. I hope everyone out there is inspired to start ballet just like you did, and follow their dreams, whatever those might be.
I hope so too. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks for listening today, dancers. For more adult ballet, you can follow our studio on Instagram and Facebook at Broche Ballet. You can follow me on Instagram at Julie the Ballerina, or check out our blog and YouTube channels for more content. You can even dance with us in our online studio with daily live Zoom classes, private lessons, and our on-demand video library. Don't forget to have your story featured on our podcast. Email us at hello@brocheballet.com. I'm Julie Gill, and this was Broche Banter. Happy dancing!